There's a Canadian election on April 28, 2025, and let's break down what exactly each political party is promising when it comes to housing and housing affordability, which is always a hot topic when it comes to any of these types of elections. We saw the same thing when it was the provincial election that just happened about 2 months ago. I found this article the most helpful, and this was just released on CTV News, where it breaks down the three major parties, so the Liberals, the Conservatives, and the NDP, and what they're promising when it comes to housing and housing affordability. You can go to each one of their websites to get more in-depth details, but I actually found it a little bit challenging to piece all that information together in one place. So this news article actually summarizes everything, and I feel like it's a really good place to start if you are considering one of the major political parties based on their housing proposals. So what are the federal parties pitching to cure Canada's housing crisis? And I won't be giving too many of my personal opinions on these articles. I don't really want to sway one way or the other. I'll just be giving the facts, and actually would love to hear your comments in the comment section down below on what you think, positive or negative, for any of these political parties' promises here as we head forward. So Canada's federal parties are all campaigning on plans to make it easier for Canadians to get into the housing market. Some of those housing platforms have elements in common. Promises to cut taxes on new home purchases, for instance, or to encourage local authorities to cut development charges. Here's what the Liberals, Conservatives, and NDP have pitched so far and what the experts are saying about their ideas. Let's start here with the Liberal Party, and the Liberals' housing platform incorporates some of the incumbent government's existing policies and some new ideas under the leadership of Mark Carney. Carney announced on March 31st a plan to double the pace of home building and construct 500,000 units a year in Canada over the next decade. And I did say I won't be giving opinions, but I will say that that would basically be double the amount, or the record amount, that has ever been built in the country for one given year. So that's 500,000 units a year in Canada over the next decade. A new housing agency called Build Canada Homes would bring the federal government into the business of building homes, which is a throwback to Ottawa's efforts to house veterans returning from the Second World War. And this agency would oversee $35 billion in funding to streamline the construction of affordable housing and provide financing for home builders. The Liberals also would look to half development charges at the local level, a matter of municipal jurisdiction. Federal government has tried to encourage cities to adopt less restrictive development policies through the Housing Accelerated Fund launched under former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. The Liberals have said they will waive the GST on homes sold at or under $1 million for first-time home buyers. Only Canadians buying a newly built home pay sales tax, and the federal government already offers a GST rebate on homes worth up to $450,000. This is important to note because if you are buying a resale property in Canada, especially in Ontario, then there's no sales tax applicable to a resale property. But if you are buying a new construction home, that's where the GST factor could play in for this announcement for the Liberal government. And if we do talk about development charges, that is a municipal thing, not a federal thing or provincial thing for that matter. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, especially if the federal government is making those promises and it has to trickle down to provincial and then, of course, municipal from there. Next up, we have the Conservative Party, and they are proposing GST waived on newly built homes priced under $1.3 million for all buyers. So that's instead of $1 million for Liberals, that's $1.3 for all home buyers. The Tories also say they would make it more attractive for municipalities to free up land, speed up permits, and cut development charges to build more homes. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has focused a number of his campaign promises on the trades. He has pledged to speed up training and boost job prospects for trade workers. One Conservative policy that would have ramifications for home building is a pledge to waive the capital gains tax on any proceedings that are reinvested in Canada. And this is actually something that exists in the USA called the 1031 exchange. And we will break down what exactly that means because it might not be exactly what everybody thinks it is. We'll take a look at that article shortly after we discuss all these parties' promises. Home builders and investors incur capital gains tax when selling homes, although Canadians do not have to pay tax on capital gains when selling their principal residences. Now, one thing to note right now is that there is a flipping policy in place for Canada. So if they are going to make any changes on a capital gains perspective, they may also want to look into the anti-flipping rule that does exist in Canada for 1 year. And in BC, they just increased it to 2 years. Because if they don't change that, then any builders that are looking to build, recreate, take a dilapidated property, turn it into an actual livable property, those builders won't be doing those renovations regardless of the capital gains tax if there's no incentive for them to actually do the building itself. So that'll be something that needs to get unpacked a little bit further. And it's also important to note that on their website, they said that this capital gains policy is only in effect till the end of 2026, and they'll reevaluate from there. Next up, we have the NDP, which rolled out a plan on March 30th to expand the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC's mandate to include offering long-term, low-interest mortgages to first-time buyers. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh also has taken corporate landlords to task through his affordable housing policy. The NDP says it plans to ban corporations from buying affordable rental housing and stop corporate landlords who gauge their tenants from getting things like low-interest federal loans, preferential tax treatment, and mortgage loan insurance. Instead, the NDP would boost the rental protection fund to help nonprofits buy affordable apartments. This will be an interesting proposal because what we are seeing, especially in a lot of new developments here, and if you look at the city of Toronto downtown core, there's an example of the Well, which has a rental-only building, and that was built on completion with the rest of the buildings within the complex. And we see these buildings in and around the city. If the federal government was to take over building these properties, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and what the completion timelines look like from that proposal. The party would set aside $1 billion over 5 years to acquire more public land for rent-controlled housing construction. On April 6th, the NDP also unveiled a plan to tie federal housing funding for provinces and municipalities to tenant protection policies like rent control. And like the Conservatives, NDP are also promising to train 100,000 more workers in the skilled trades. Now, taking a look at some of the comments down below, and they did interview John Pasalis from Philosophy and Kevin Lee, CEO of the Canadian Home Builders Association, who says that the Liberal plan is too narrowly focused on first-time buyers. He argued that Canada needs more housing of all types to fill the supply gap, allowing homeowners to move up to more expensive homes and freeing up entry-level homes for new buyers. I would actually agree with this. And even though I mentioned I won't be giving my opinion on each party's proposals, I do believe that one of the things we need to address in any kind of building right now is building all different property types that people actually want to buy. If you are looking for a property in the city of Toronto, every single new proposal that's been announced that's going to be coming to market in the future has a condo element to it, either stacked townhouses or a condo building. Most buyers that I work with are looking for detached properties or semi-detached properties. They're essentially freehold properties without the condo fees and more of the land and more of the space within the property. So until they start building those kind of properties in the best areas of the city, which there's not much land to build on anyways, those prices in those areas won't go down anytime soon because those properties still remain very much high in demand here in the city of Toronto. I did mention talking about the 1031 exchange really quickly, and if you go to Investopedia, it has a really good breakdown of this, but essentially in the USA, a 1031 exchange allows investors to defer capital gains on the sale of one investment property by reinvesting the proceeds into another like-kind property. So I keep seeing this online where everyone's saying this is great. All these boomers will be selling off their properties and they can invest in something like the stock market or Canadian company down the road. But if they are trying to make this like the USA, the deferral only happens if you're buying a like-kind investment, or if you're selling real estate, for example, if you're buying another piece of real estate in Canada. So that's where I do believe that people are not quite sure of what exactly this means. So if you are an investor and, for example, you're in the flipping business, you can purchase a property, get it up to speed, sell it, and then buy the next property using that proceeds instead of paying capital gains on the sale price of that property. And then you can continue to flip these properties moving forward. So I'm not sure if this is going to have the exact intention that everybody thinks it will, but I do believe that builders who have incentives to go out and build and to take properties that are really not livable, most buyers can't afford to actually do the work and renovation on them. Buyers would rather buy the property totally finished and purchase it like that, so it's all built into the mortgage. The like-kind exchange must involve real estate properties, not personal property, except in specific cases such as real estate businesses. The exchange properties must be, of course, this is a US example, but in Canada, of course, to qualify, and there are strict time limits. So this is the other piece that I feel that people are missing a little bit, is that the replacement property must be identified within 45 days and the exchange must be completed within 180 days. So if you do sell, you essentially have 45 days to go out and to purchase your next property, which I would imagine is identifying the next property. That's where you have a property locked up under contract, and it has to be closed within that 180-day period. So you basically have a month and a half to find the next property, and the whole transaction must be completed within basically 6 months of time. Cash or mortgage differences called boot can trigger tax liabilities. I'm not too sure what exactly that means, but just a quick overall snapshot of that 1031 exchange. I don't think it's exactly what people think it would be, but if it comes into play like this, I actually really like the option of being able to do this, especially if you're a real estate investor looking to make a move, or if you have a condo, for example, and want to sell the condo and purchase a duplex. It will allow you to go up that chain or the property ladder to continue purchasing great real estate in a city like Toronto and, of course, in Canada. Those are proposals from the three major political parties running for government and prime minister on April 28, 2025. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you ever wanted to book in a call to discuss your plans for Toronto real estate, scan the QR code, click that first link in the description down below. I'm Michael Ouzas. Thanks for watching.